that might be the very argument that wins them the round. We have a terrific panel of judges with us tonight, all seasoned debaters from the Seagull Debate Program who are going to carefully consider these arguments. Well, almost all of them. And one special guest judge as well, Adrian Sider, has joined us. He's a long-time cabin fever debater as well as participant and volunteer for the Seagull Debate Program. So we're pleased to have them all with us. That's going to be chaired. Are you chairing, Jacob? Jacob is going to be chairing. I wasn't sure. That's going to be chaired by Jacob. He'll lead their discussion afterwards. Our Speaker of the House is Demery. Demery is going to call the House to order right now, so I will turn control of this House over to you, Demery, and ask you to call the House to order on the motion the state of Alaska should adopt a statewide lottery.
On the motion of a statewide lottery, we have the first speaker from the first prop, the team Qingyun, the PM Speaker, Sean Kelly. Hear, hear.
Up with current events lately, but if you've lived in Alaska for any amount of time, you might have noticed that the state's currently undergoing an economic recession. With dropping oil prices, so has our state budget. If prices continue to drop, Alaska may soon be facing an economic crisis on a scale never seen before. As a result, we need solutions to solve this problem, and many thoughts and ideas have been passed around over the following months. Now, here's a list of some of the ideas they proposed. One such, I say this sarcastically, popular idea, getting rid of the permanent fund dividend, instituting an income tax, cutting programs, as well as increasing taxes. All of these options have been incredibly unpopular and have been fiercely opposed by a vast majority of the people that have lived in this state. However, there's one option that has yet to be explored, and that is that of a state lottery. In simple terms, a lottery is a legal game of chance run by a state government. Its primary function is to raise revenue by having people voluntarily buy lottery tickets in the hopes that they will achieve a greater cash prize. The concept of the lottery is not a new one, as it's been around for quite some time. At the beginning of our country, lotteries was used quite a bit, and continues to exist today in 43 states. Even our founding fathers saw the usefulness in such lotteries. An example of this is when Ben Franklin used Pennsylvania's lottery to purchase cannons to chase out the redcoats. Although this didn't work, it's the thought that matters in the end, isn't it? Not right now. Of the 5 states that do not utilize state lotteries, Alaska is among one of them. Over the years, there have been attempts to institute a state lottery, and all these attempts have met with resistance and failures. Yes?
What does a state lottery look like? Are we only talking about buying tickets, or are we talking about slot machines as well?
Well, right now, before we even decide what the form's going to take, we first need to get a lottery in here in the first place. It's sort of counting your chickens before they hatch. We first need to make sure we get a lottery in the first place. Now, as I was saying, the main reason why we've encountered so much resistance is the main issue. Alaska is a vast state. If you took up Alaska, it covers easily a quarter of this country. That, and we are one of the states that has one of the smallest populations. So, area versus capita, it's not good ratios for money making. Now, if we were to look, if the lottery was to be, not right now. If we were to look into a lottery, one way to do it is to look at a state with a similar population. That state would be Wyoming. They make over 13 to 17 million. Now, our opponents would say that a state lottery would be far too much effort for too little income. In response to this, we must realize that the lottery was never intended to be the sole cure for our state's financial problems. Rather, it's meant to be a supplemental income to our state's financial situation. Rather, if you want to think about it, it's sort of like a Band-Aid, in simple terms. And while 13 to 17 million may not sound like much, I may remind you that 13 to this 13 to 17 million is not paid through taxation. Rather, this money is money that the state is acquired from people that willingly bought lottery tickets without the use of force or coercion. Not right now. The money would also alleviate some of the pressures facing trying to remove that permanent fund dividend that we Alaskans are so attached to, as well as helping tax rates stay somewhat low or staying the same rates as they are right now. In total, while profits from the lottery would be small, it would be profits that would be acquired without raising taxes. To put it another way, if you find $1 in the parking lot, you say, "Oh, it's only a measly dollar, I'm not going to pick it up." If you do that, you, sir or ma'am, are a very charitable citizen, leaving it for another person to find that. And I salute you. But if you're like me and grab that dollar faster than light speed, so why should our government refuse any money, especially when they're going under this current? Yes?
So do you think that lotteries lure people in with their marketing?
Of course. Why not? Does McDonald's lure you in with its advertising? Pretty good. Now is not the time to say no to money, no matter how minuscule. If our state is to recover from this economic hardship, it'll be through measures such as this. A little bit at a time. You know what they say, slow and steady wins the race. 13 million here, 17 million there. Eventually these numbers add up. And when supplemented by other means of income, the lottery will become another tool in the state's arsenal to maintain financial independence. My name is Sean Kelly, and I'm proud to represent the proposition for a state lottery. Now, for the members of the proponents, if you have any other questions, I got some time. Well, that I think you would do.
We thank the Prime Minister for some great arguments, and we welcome the first opposition from the team, the Alphas, the leader of op, Katelyn Roberts, I'm so sorry. Here.
Good evening, esteemed panel and audience. As leader of the opposition, we oppose the state lottery. While the government gave a few ideas about why the lotteries could happen, I would like to first start out by deconstructing a couple things about their argument. First off, I think that they were correct in saying that this is a Band-Aid. It is a quick fix to a long-term financial problem. Also, $17 million would not be it's a drop in the bucket when you look at the budget of the state. And we already have a legal form of gambling called pool tabs, which I found created $88 million in state revenue. So we should just start
We thank Katelyn Roberts, our LO, and we move on to our DPM, Wright Qingyun from the first proposition team, Team Engine. Hear, hear.
Okay. First, I want to start out by just addressing some of the concerns that the opposition laid out for those of us on the proposition side not supporting or supporting a state lottery. They say it's a quick fix. I wouldn't say it's a quick fix because if implemented, it would last for years and years and years, and that still would be a source of revenue. Even if it is 17 million, that's 17 million that we didn't have originally. It's still helping knock down that deficit that we have. They also claim that participating in the lottery is higher among the poor and uneducated. That is true, but some of the revenue could go back and support some of these lower income areas and provide scholarships for some of those students to allow them to go to universities or receive an education. Or even participate in after-school activities, because that seems to be a big problem amongst lower income areas. So, and also they ask where would the money go? Seeing as how this hasn't been implemented yet, there is no set way as to where the government is going to allot the money. Before we even implement it, of course we have to discuss that and we have to determine where we're going to put the money. And that's something that we can discuss as a state and vote upon. Sure.
So how can you offer the idea that this is going to go toward education when you don't even know where it's going to go?
I personally cannot say that it will go directly towards education. But as a state, we can vote on it, just like any other law or proposition that is placed before this state, and then we can choose what we do with this money because it hasn't been implemented yet. And so some of the reasons why I feel like a state lottery should be implemented are in order to eliminate the budget deficit. At a minimum, as everyone was saying, about 12 to 15 million if we're looking at a model state that has a generally same population as Alaska. This can help mitigate the effects of the budget crisis currently taking place, and I don't see a problem with that. It's still money that's coming in, it's revenue. In the states it is established, it creates more revenue than corporate income tax. So by implementing this lottery, we can prevent our state from implementing other taxes that may harm us or cause us to pay more out of pocket. Go ahead.
Why should we give the state, which already doesn't know how to use money responsibly, more money?
Well, seeing as how we are in a deficit, it wouldn't make sense to not try to make up this deficit by implementing something that we can't cover. The fiscal crisis that we're already in, so I feel like it can only benefit from this point on. And also, state lotteries actually rank first in gross income and the highest profit of any form of gambling. So this is obviously a very viable option, and it can be very effective when implemented correctly. And it can be more effective than states that have casinos or things like that. And then, as I mentioned before, uses the funds, it can go to many places. It can help build and maintain infrastructure, so that means better roads, less congestion, safer travel.
So you said about 17 million, we're saying hypothetically. So
Right.
60% goes of that to pay out. So our sky bridge costs $3 million. Can we build a sky bridge and a half? What we build with $5 million?
But one thing to address in that situation, these are all hypothetical values. We don't actually know how much we're actually going to make in revenue. And because it is 17 million, once again, it's not chump change. I would say in my own terms, it is something that can be used to implement some kind of program or scholarship or something to that effect. And of course, as I mentioned before, it can go to a powerful cause such as going towards primary and secondary education. This can help a lot of the lower income areas that have troubles implement better education systems, pay the educators, and more children to go to college. Not at this time. one thing to keep in mind, the lottery is a voluntary tax. And it can help subsidize other taxes. No one is forcing anyone to participate in the lottery, not at this time. Because it is a voluntary tax, you don't have to participate. And yes, everything has advertisements. That's something that the opposition was mentioning. But just like fast food, they're trying to get you in, and of course that's just to make more money.
So we already live in a state that has lots of different addiction issues, and gambling addictions are very real. Why should we add something else to the list?
I would like to just address that point. So you say gambling is not already an issue here, but we actually do have forms of gambling that are already prevalent, such as pull tabs and raffles that take place. So I don't think that's going to change the outcome that we have currently, because gambling is still technically a problem here because we have pull tabs, and as such, they still have that option. Not at this time. Speaking of addiction, a study has shown that those who win the lottery don't help gambling addictions. That was studied in Psych Today. And while it's true that some people have gambling problems, there are other forms that are still here in Alaska already. And I don't see how implementing something else is going to really change people who already have addictions. And the infrastructure is already in place to help those who have gambling addictions. And it is a personal problem that if you need to seek help if you have a gambling addiction, and other friends and family and peers should be looking out for you. And that's something that needs to be fixed. And part of this revenue could go to help raise awareness of addiction and helping those who have gambling addictions. I'd also like to address tobacco is also an addictive substance, but there's no one saying that we were going to outlaw tobacco or anything like that. So I'd just like to wrap this up that lottery would be great to implement when there's numerous issues that could arise, but I don't think they're very valid.
We thank the DPM for his speech, and we welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Robert Labrecque, for his speech. Hear, hear.
All right. Esteemed panel, as Deputy Leader of the Opposition, allow me to present two central focuses in my time here in front of you. First, I'll offer a brief deconstruction of a couple of the points from the government here, and followed by a brief refocusing on some of our opposing views. First off, let's look at a little bit of deconstruction. Now, the first argument is that this is going to solve our fiscal problems by providing more money than a corporate tax. Now, we actually looked that up and found out that lottery income provides basically 66 cents to every dollar the corporate tax funds the state. How is that more? I don't really see that. Second off, the government talked about how this would fund education programs, and in fact, that's something I'm going to address further, a little bit further down here today, so we'll get to that. All right, now let me move on to our points here. First off, as we talked about, the lottery focuses on the poor, not only the poor,